This is Tyrese Halliburton, and you're listening to Setting the Pace.
Pacer Nation, what is going on? Welcome back to another episode here of your go-to Pacers podcast here on the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm your host, Alex Golden, and joining me today, it is not Michael J. Facci, but back by popular demand. We had him on in the offseason, and people loved his commentary on the Indiana Pacers. It's our guy, Casey Johnson. Casey, welcome back, man. How you doing?
Alex, my friend, it is an honor and a privilege to be back. And to the person who in the YouTube comments last time said that I both look and sound like Josh Gad, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. And so Casey and I are going to be talking about the greatest event in Pacers preseason history. It is the one and only. It is Fan Jam, and we love being able to attend this as often as we can. Today, it was a little bit different, a little bit earlier than normal, and Casey and his wife, they made the haul up from Columbus, Indiana, and they got in line relatively early so they could get some good seats for Fan Jam. You want to tell us a little bit about your expedition to Gainbridge Fieldhouse today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, for those of you that have listened before when I've been on or just know me from being around Twitter or whatever, you know, I'm the drummer in a nationally touring country band, and we had a show last night, and so we ended up getting to bed probably at about 2 a.m. and got up at about 7:30 to get up to Gainbridge Fieldhouse by around the 8:30-ish mark, and ended up I think we ended up being there around 8:50 after we did our routine of leaving 20 minutes after the hard out that I give my wife. So we got there, we got in line, and I mean we were one of, I would say, probably the first 500 to 600 fans, probably.
There was already that many fans there at that time.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
There were lines coming out of the tunnel and the parking garage. There were lines coming out of both sides. They hadn't let anybody actually into the building. At around 9, they opened it up to let people into the tunnel. And then at about 9:15, 9:20, they started letting people through security to fill out it was like a tiered thing.
Gotcha.
And so we were by the time that we got down to the bottom of the escalator in the atrium, we were about right at the bottom of the escalator as the crowd is considered. So once they opened the door, we got in at 3-ish minutes after that. Went and got our wristbands for the player meet and greet, and then found seats, put our little gift bags for being in the first 5,000 people to get there in the seats, and then went to the merch area, which served us as well, if not better, than anything else that we did today.
Okay, so let's just kind of backtrack just a little bit because I want fans to know how this all works. So you have to be very quick on social media when the announcement is made, and get your tickets, secure your tickets. It's general admission, and you're basically trying to get in as early as possible to get the best seats for this event. Now, I personally think, based on how crowded it was already for this event, they could open up the balcony, and I think that it would probably sell out. I think fans love this. It's a free event, as far as I recall, unless they started charging $5. But I think it's free, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so it's a free event, so it's not ticketed, and I think that's really cool. You can take your kids, and they did it relatively early because of the Colts game taking place downtown as well. So there was a lot of people downtown today in general. Parking was crazy for me. I usually park in the garage connected to the arena, have media parking. That was closed by the time I got downtown today just to be able to get into the building. So I had to park somewhere else. Not a big deal. Parked by Pearl Street Pizza. So was really tempted.
Where's that at?
It's on Pearl Street. Little inside joke from Casey and I earlier today. But long story short, I just want to say, fans, you guys were incredible. When I got to the arena, that is when they were asking young fans to be as loud as they can to be picked to be an assistant coach with Boomer. And they always do this every year, but the amount of kids that were screaming at the top of their lungs was piercing my ears. I mean, I felt like I was back in Game 6 of the NBA Finals.
Yes.
That's how loud it was in that lower bowl with those kids screaming. So really cool to kind of just set the environment up. The players were in practice jerseys this time compared to the normal jerseys they've worn the last couple of years. I know Rick Carlisle has had previous scrimmages the Friday before the event and said, whoever wins this scrimmage will get the home locker room. The losers gets the visiting locker room. We're making this a real thing. Wasn't like that at all this time. It was very more casual, more loose. And I just kind of feel like, Casey, when you make it to the NBA Finals, your fan jam practice doesn't have to be as serious as maybe it had to be in previous years.
Yeah, I think that standards all over the place, not in a bad way, but standards all over the place have relaxed just a little bit when you make it up to the top of the mountain that way. For instance, like a lot of people last year who were like, fun fact, Rick Carlisle's a terrible coach. And it's like, no, he's not. Actually, Game 7 of the Finals, sorry, he's not. And you can just go after thing after thing after thing where it's like, okay, this team is full of professionals. It's a very similar group to last year. They know how to win. They know what to do. And so we're going to let them off the hook a little bit. Not as much the younger guys, but definitely like the starters only ended up playing about 7 minutes in the 20 minutes total of this scrimmage. And it was definitely one of those things where it's kind of like, when a director has a really good movie, they always say, like, you get one for you. When you have a really good movie, go make whatever weird passion project you have. This definitely felt like a one for me, and not in a bad way.
Yeah, I will say that you were right on with the minutes played for the starters. 6 minutes and 43 seconds is all we saw from Isaiah Jackson and Aaron Nesmith, as well as TJ McConnell, who was on the blue team. So when that timeout was called, that's when they did make those changes with about 3 minutes and 17 seconds left. We saw Siakam, Mathurin, and Nembhard stay out there a little bit longer with Tony Bradley and Jalen Slauson entering the game. And then Delon Wright came in like after one play for Jalen Slauson. And he was kind of like confused a little bit on that, but I thought it was interesting. We only saw Obi Toppin play 8 minutes, and I thought in the 8 minutes he looked pretty good offensively. Jarris Walker had some okay moments, not great from three, but we probably saw the coolest thing that we've ever seen in a fan jam. We had a mid-game trade between the white and the blue team. So Johnny Furphy played with the blue team in the first half and then got traded to the white team, which was the starters team basically. And I think it was because Carlisle didn't want a lot of the starters playing in that second half. I don't even think any of them logged any minutes in the second half.
No.
So it was a lot of Tony Bradley, Jalen Slauson, Delon Wright, Ray J. Dennis, and Johnny Furphy. That was kind of your group out there for that second half. And so, you got to see some stuff. But let's just get into the game. The blue team ends up winning this one 54-47 with the dominant second half, 20-14 outscoring the white team. But I want to hear your thoughts on maybe one player that stood out to you right off the bat.
So my most immediate thought, it was a very weird fan jam for me because, you're not witnessing a necessarily high level of basketball being played at a fan jam. It's pretty relaxed. It's a lot of cardio. It's a lot of like fun dunks. But we were in a unique situation where the unique brand of basketball that was being played today was actually what I needed to see out of a couple people. So I kept my eye really heavily on the Achilles returnees, on Wiseman and on Jackson, and particularly Isaiah Wiseman sort of alleviated. Isaiah Jackson. I might have said that wrong.
Yeah, I was just trying to make sure we knew which one you were talking about.
Yeah.
Isaiah Jackson.
In particular, Isaiah Jackson alleviated a lot of my concerns about him coming back from the Achilles injury. Mm-hmm. He ran with the ones as he's been doing all week, and he was sort of a de facto starter, and he affected the game in a really interesting way. I pointed out to my wife a couple of times that he has the ability to open up the Pacers offense in a way that is a little bit different to, for instance, what Myles Turner was able to do with the spacing. Isaiah has a tendency to draw a little bit of gravity to the paint. And we saw a couple of times in the game, they sort of collapsed on him in the paint, and he was able to kick it out to Neesmith, or he was able to kick it out to Siakam for like an open three, or Matherin, or whomever it was at the time. And that is a really good way to keep the ball moving. That's a really good way to affect the game. And not to mention, he had the dunk of the day on a dunk about one step inside of the free throw line, where it may have just been where I was sitting. Usually I'm not sitting down that low, but at one point, I swear to everything holy, he was at eye level with the shot clock somehow.
Oh, wow.
He got up there so high, and that's what we need to see from him. We need to know if the athleticism is still there. Last time I was on here, I was talking about how I'm looking at his athleticism and Wiseman's athleticism to inform a little bit of my opinion of what we could potentially get from Ty next year with their recovery program, and how high Isaiah Jackson was able to jump when he dunked today, which you can look up the clip, it's online, then we have nothing to worry about with any of those three, really.
Yeah, I mean, that to me was the most refreshing thing, is just seeing both of your guys returning from Achilles injuries full go. I mean, James Wiseman, I'll just throw this out there really quick. He had a beautiful alley-oop that he finished early in the game. Quenton Jackson came driving down. I mean, the pass was difficult. I mean, Quenton Jackson made a very nice pass, but I mean, Tony Bradley was like, he was draped all over James Wiseman. But it was one of those things where Wiseman's just a little bit taller than Tony Bradley and has a little bit more athleticism. So he was able to get up, catch the ball, and slam it home with Tony Bradley kind of in his grill. So I thought that was a really nice play there between Q-Jax and James Wiseman. But with Isaiah Jackson, there was a lot of things that I noted from him early on. The first thing to me that I liked, obviously you mentioned the fact that he had that nice dunk from the free throw line. That was really impressive. He also took a three when he was wide open at the top of the key. Mm-hmm. He also drove on Jay Huff, hit him with a little spin move, and finished in that and with a little bit of contact, and really kind of like was able to bump Jay Huff off of him a little bit and kind of create some space. Also, one of the things that he's very, very talented at is resetting very quickly in this offense. As soon as the ball gets kind of stuck somewhere, he's able to make that initial relieve pass, like a release valve, pass it out to him real quick, boom, dribble handoff. Now you're back in your motion again. Very quick and a little bit sturdier on his screens than Myles Turner. The only thing I would say, I don't think he got called for one. Maybe he did, but I don't think he did, is a moving screen. He does move a tiny bit early before that contact is initiated. So I just think if he can just be a little bit more patient with that. But I'm curious, though, to see if we do see him shoot the ball a little bit more. He did take another 18-foot jumper as well. That he missed pretty badly. I'm just curious how much he's going to be willing to shoot that and how much they're giving him the green light to shoot those shots when he's open. Because if he can start hitting those at least at a decent clip, it will make teams respect him a little bit more. But if I'm a defense and I'm trying to sag off of Ajax to kind of keep that pick and roll intact or overplay to keep him from, getting to the basket, there's ways there that he can maybe attack that if he's able to knock down that shot.
Yeah, and you have to look at rhythm and flow too when it comes to that a lot. I saw about a month ago probably, I saw a clip of Meta World Peace, and he was talking about a game where he was like 0 of 13 from 3 when he was with the Lakers. And he was talking about how Kobe was berating him on the sideline when he was like, why are you still telling me to shoot this? I haven't made one of them. And Kobe was saying, listen, if you don't take that shot, that ruins defense for the entire rest of the offense. If you are not still pulling you're not taking that shot at the time and the flow of the offense where it makes sense to take that shot, then you're probably going to end up with issues. So I don't know how much they want to give him the green light as opposed to, hey, try to work something inside. But I have a distinct feeling that when those shots make sense, because also you can't really worry about misses at Fan Jam either. We have to take everything with a grain of salt because, for one,
Not
I mean,
today.
even the moving screen issues. Like, can you imagine how nervous he was today? Like, it's your first time in front of actual fans playing actual basketball. I mean, for all intents and purposes, he's still a kid,
Yeah.
and so I can only imagine like the moment when all of the spotlights hit you and you have that open three. I think what was important was the way that he flowed in the offense, the way that he was taking the shots when they came to him, which really everybody did a pretty good job today of.
Mhm.
And the offense looked really interesting in general, particularly with just like a bunch of screens. I noticed that the way that they sort of compensated with ball movement for Tyrese being gone is like there were sometimes like 4 screens set in a matter of 8 seconds on an offensive action. It was just so frenetic. And so I feel like off ball movement is going to be a huge part of what they do this year. And that's really going to serve Ijax and, I mean, to that token, Wiseman well.
No, I agree with you there, and I think one of the things too is they continue to play at that fast pace. That was one of the things that the players talked about afterwards too. Is just this is who we are. We've established this. We play at a certain pace. It's kind of the requirement. And one thing they kept saying in the media day stuff is the standard is the standard. So that is kind of like what this team has banked everything on. Is like we're going to play fast, and it doesn't matter if Tyrese is out there or not. It doesn't matter if Myles is on the team or not. We're going to get the ball up and down the court. And if you're caught sleeping, we'll catch you with a backdoor alley-oop like we saw Siakam fall asleep early in the first quarter, and Obi Toppin got him on the back door, and TJ just threw him a beautiful lob pass. So, you're just slowly starting to see, like, okay, this team can still keep this pace, even if it's different. And I think that you bring it up how they set different screens to kind of make up for the lack of Tyrese. That's a great point, because they've got to find ways to get guys open. And as we're kind of just looking through, like, I didn't think the starters necessarily looked great today. There was moments there after that first time out they had where they kind of came out and played a little bit more intact together, but it felt like they were kind of going through the motions. And I'm sure that it probably felt like that because, it's Fan Jam. It's not a super, super, super hard scrimmage, but they are scrimmaging in front of the fans to try to give them a show. But my trivia question for you, Casey, and I want to play this with all of our listeners today on the podcast. If I were to give you 3 guesses, who led the team in assist for today's Fan Jam scrimmage, who would those 3 be that you would guess?
So between both teams?
Between both teams.
Okay. So I think a name that might be in the top 3 that almost nobody would guess, I think Gabe McLaughlin might be up there.
Okay.
Because he was... Of the training camp roster guys, I felt like Gabe McLaughlin was the only one who looked like what he needed to look like in the Pacers offense. Okay. Like he looked like he was actually working within the offense, taking the shot, making the pass.
The Cole Swider-esque.
Yeah. Okay. I can definitely see that from him.
Okay, so that's one guess is Gabe McLaughlin. I'm gonna let you pick 3 before I tell you the answer.
Okay. So I'm sort of removing from contention here probably just about any of the starters because they played much less time. I'm going to throw Furf in there.
Okay.
Because he was very active both on and off the ball. And honestly, from a swing pass perspective, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Jay Huff. 3 very weird choices, but just based on how the game went.
Okay, so I will say you did pick one of the ones that is correct.
That's all we needed, baby.
Your Johnny Furphy guess, after playing 18 of the 20 minutes possible, Johnny Furphy got a total of 0 assists. So, not really Furphy's calling card. He was more of a slasher, catch and shoot kind of guy. So,
well, I noticed he was the swing pass a lot, but I think he was the one second before the shot.
Yeah.
I don't think he was the last pass guy.
The hockey assist.
Kind of.
Okay, so Gabe McLaughlin had 2 assists in the game, which would have tied for, I believe, 3rd. There was him and Quenton Jackson as well as Benedict Mathurin had 2 assists, and and that's it. And then for third place, or I should say maybe second place, we had a tie between Jarris Walker and TJ McConnell at 3. But the man that led the team in assist, none other than Jay Huff, with 5 assists in this game.
Yeah.
And we heard Rick Carlisle talk about how he is a playmaker at practice a couple days ago. And then when he was asked about it by the media, he was like, I'm not like Jason Kidd out here making passes, but we saw him make a very nice alley-oop pass to, I believe it was Obi Toppin.
From nearly half court.
Yeah, and it was like spot on. It was like a direct shot. I felt like Jay Huff didn't look great defensively. I feel like he looked a little small in terms of his frame.
Yes.
At times, kind of got pushed around a lot. He didn't really shoot the ball very well. I think he went 1 of 2 from the field, only took 1 3. So it wasn't like he was really involved in the offense. But the fact that he still had 5 assists, that was like, whoa, okay. Jay Huff. Looking like the Pacers' Nikola Jokic off the bench in terms of a passing standpoint. So we'll see if that can continue, but I do believe that that's something to keep an eye on in terms of just his ability to kind of move the ball to the right spot.
Yeah, and I think that this kind of hammers home to me that most likely it's going to be situational between him and Wiseman as to who gets the backup 5 minutes, because there are definitely going to be moments against certain 5s in the league, and especially against certain backup 5s in the league, where a smaller frame but a playmaker is going to be necessary, and a big physical athletic bully like Wiseman with like a great midi is going to be, it's like deploying a different like 2K archetype depending on what your matchup is in a lot of ways. And so that to me preaches optionality, which is actually really nice.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, because we are currently watching a training camp battle potentially between Tony Bradley and Delon Wright. Did any of those two players stick out to you in today's scrimmage? And if so, out of those two, who do you think played better?
So the easy answer is that like neither one of them really stuck out to me for good reasons. In particular, I was looking at Wiseman versus Bradley for a lot of it because I wanted to see how they stacked up against each other. Because Bradley does have a certain amount of cachet with the team. I mean, he played minutes in the NBA Finals. That doesn't just count for nothing, particularly in this organization, right? Who, like, this organization likes to count on and stick with their guys in a lot of respects. And so I was looking to see, okay, if Tony, I think, is going to make the team, it probably has something to do with him playing well against Wiseman in the scrimmages, but of course this is the only one that we're privy to. And so for me, I looked at Tony and all of the things that I've praised Huff, Jackson, and Wiseman for, as far as keeping the offense moving, the off-ball movement, the facilitation, Tony Bradley did not do. I felt like he stayed pretty still a lot of the time in a way that was not conducive to the rest of the offense moving well, which really the offense should have moved fairly well under Ray J. Dennis, because like that's his thing, is passing, and they just weren't moving the ball around nearly as well as Tony Bradley was your 5 out there. And he sort of just didn't look as much like an NBA player as a Wiseman did. Then you go to Delon Wright, and Delon Wright kind of just like went into the background for me. I know that this is a pretty popular opinion amongst the Pacers faithful, but I would be probably more inclined to put somebody else on, say, a 2-way and give Quenton the last roster spot over either of them right now.
I think that's how a lot of people feel.
Yeah. I think that he looked like an NBA player out there. And not only that, I noticed when either he or Matherin were playing on-ball defense against each other, those two have a little something special between the two of them. I'm not necessarily like saying like a rivalry or they don't like each other, but I have a feeling that they mutually push each other in practice a
They're
lot.
competitive.
And that could definitely, like, there was a point when, like, Quenton had the ball and Matherin just like had his hand out and like Quenton just kept swatting Matherin's hand away like it was an annoying fly. And I have a feeling, especially in a year where you kind of need Matherin to have a breakout and become what everybody is saying he is, having a guy like that who brings out the competitive spirit in him every day, not just when he's called up, but every day would be a really good choice. If I had to go between the two that you asked about, however, I would probably say Tony just because he's been around the team and knows the guys. Mm-hmm. But I think that they were both pretty much non-factors on the court for me.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because Delon Wright, we know, was not the Pacers' first choice to bring in as their third-string point guard. They were really wanting to get Monty Morris. That news leaked. And then, of course, Monty had that calf injury that held him out of training camp, so the Pacers just kind of needed a body. And we've kind of seen that as we saw today. Ben Shepherd was not able to play. Ray J. Dennis, Cam Jones was not able to play. And then, of course, Tyrese can't play. So you're already down 3 players out of your 21 on the roster. So you only have 18 guys, dressing to play. And this is where it gets interesting because if you don't have Monty Morris, now you're down to 17. And so you just need bodies in case there's little nicks and dings and bruises and things like that. So you had to get him in there. And, honestly, like as I was thinking about it more and more, I was like, maybe Delon Wright could make some sense. And we'll see. Maybe it was just a scrimmage game and you can't read too much into it. But, yeah, I thought today that Quenton Jackson looked more impressive than either of those two. But I also know Quenton Jackson has a lot more to play for. And Delon Wright definitely has something to play for, right? Not saying that, but it also seemed to me like he was just trying to get his feet wet, fit into the system and not, really take over or do anything. There was a couple times where he had some shots. I think he ended up only making one basket off of a goaltend, and I'm not sure who blocked that. Our goaltender, that might have been Wiseman, but
that was Jay.
Was it Jay?
Yeah, because I remember him going like, "Ugh!" I almost got there.
Yeah, it was really close, but it wasn't like he had a lot of great looks, and so I'm not the biggest Delon Wright guy. I'm not like, oh my gosh, like he's gonna change things, but as a third string point guard, like it's not the worst thing. The one thing with Quenton Jackson, though, that we have talked about ad nauseum on this podcast is just he feels more of like a shooting guard. He feels more of that kind of player. And I felt like today we were slowly but surely starting to see some progress as a primary ball handler. Like I mentioned that alley-oop pass that he threw to Wiseman. There was a couple of different of those plays where he was looking to be more of an initiator than a scorer. And maybe that's something they're challenging him to do. Maybe they're saying, hey, you know what? These guys are on non-guaranteed contracts. They're on Exhibit 9, Exhibit 10 deals, whatever you want to call it. And if they're not kept and retained, maybe this could be your spot. So it's not the end of the world, but I also think that with the Pacers wanting to kind of have like the flexibility to utilize him on that two-way deal instead of promoting him, I think they might because it's his last year of eligibility to be a two-way player. So yeah, that to me is also playing a factor into all of that. But overall, I felt like today's game was fun. Nothing really stood out to me other than, we saw some good moments from a lot of the young guys and just they were playing a little bit harder than the starters, that's for sure. TJ McConnell, I think he's going to be completely fine with that bench unit, him and Obi kind of leading that. Feel pretty confident about that, whether it's Shepherd or Furphy playing, depending on who's healthy. But the starters, yeah, it's just going to take a little bit more time and a little bit more of a sample size for us to fully grasp what that unit looks like before we can have any real strong opinions. So anything else that stood out to you as we kind of like wrap up the Fan Jam segment here of the show?
I mean, I would be remiss not to praise Johnny Furphy.
Yeah, 18 minutes.
At least a little bit. And he's young. He can take it. He is just, and I realize we've had a small sample size with him, and then Summer League was another small sample size, and this one was an even smaller sample size. But I was talking to my wife about this earlier. There are things that translate well in a small sample size situation and things that don't. For instance, like, and I know Tony talks about this on his podcast all the time, like from Summer League, shot rate is one of those things that does translate over. Like if you get up shots in Summer League, categorically you will get up shots in the big league. And one thing I think that does translate is simply like just like making the right decisions and playing basketball the right way. And Johnny just kind of does that. He's got a really good instinct. He's willing to take the shot if he needs to. He's willing to drive in if he needs to. He also wants to make the pass if he can. He's also just got an incredible nose for the ball. There was one rebound where, I mean, I believe it was Wiseman, like all but had it in his hands. And I didn't even see Furphy in the general vicinity. And he just snaked around and grabbed the rebound and kicked it back to somebody who I believe made the shot. But I phrased it this way to my wife earlier. Last year when Johnny Furphy came into the game, I would say, all right, let's see if Furph can do something. And this experience has led me to ask the question now when he gets minutes, okay, let's see what Furph can do.
Right.
And those are two very similar statements that at the end of the day are pretty different. I've got a lot more trust in him than I did previously. And the other quick thing that I'll say before we wrap this part up is just today really just set in stone to me that like everything's going to be fine in a way. Like, I mean, the funny thing is like there's a calendar on my door. And for those who are watching the video, you can see it still says June 25 because we haven't updated the calendar since the playoffs have been over because we just haven't had to like track it. And like, that's kind of representative of how we kind of like collectively as a fan base went through actual human trauma in June.
Yeah.
And getting the opportunity to just like see the guys play and like Ijax is looking good and everybody's joking around and you know Obi is closing out on Pascal who hits a fadeaway in his face and you can just see Obi going like I almost got him and just being that close to the action and seeing all of them again. Like my wife said it made her feel significantly less hopeless. I don't know that I ever felt hopeless. But without a doubt, like if you're going into this season and you're wondering what you're going to see or you're thinking it's going to be bad, listen, having Tyrese out is going to hurt the way that the Pacers play, but they also signed and sought out a whole bunch of people who also play that way.
Right.
They built an entire system of people who benefit from a fast pace. Tyrese is the linchpin of it. But unequivocally, I've been convinced today that what you're going to see when they step onto the court Tuesday for their first preseason game and every day thereafter, this year you are going to see Pacers basketball, and we are going to have quite a lot of fun on the way, I think.
I agree. And I think there's a lot of people that kind of share those same sentiments. There's a lot of non-Pacer fans that think, oh, no, Halliburton, no chance. But I think a lot of Pacer fans realize with Rick Carlisle and this collective group, they can probably exceed expectations. Now, I may not agree with some fans that I'm seeing on social media say, I think they can get to 50 wins again. I'm like, well, that's pretty overzealous, and I appreciate the fandom and all of that, but I do not agree on that sentiment. But what I will say is I think this team is going to be better than people are giving them credit for, and we'll just have to see how that all plays out. Now, Casey, one thing I told you that I wanted to do was there was a great post by our friends up north, the Milwaukee Bucks. There's a picture of Giannis pointing directly ahead, and Myles Turner is intently looking at Giannis, and they said, caption this. And so I said, Pacer fans, give me your best caption, okay? The best ones will be read on air. And so I went through and I bookmarked quite a few, and I've narrowed it down to about 10, maybe less than that, maybe 7 to 10, somewhere in that range. I'm just going to quickly read these. And Casey, after I read each one, I want you to respond with either a thumbs up, thumbs down if you like it. Okay?
Okay.
So maybe you can talk as you're doing the thumbs up.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'll find a way to make it an audio medium as well.
Not just for our video watchers. Okay.
Like you read it and then I just hold up a thumbs up and they're like, did he like it? Or
that would be very funny just for people to guess. Okay. this is the first one from Rooster. This one probably got the most likes on the responses. So he said, "See that door over there? That's the one I'm going through on my way to my next team."
That's a good one. That's topical. That is not exactly low-hanging fruit. You have to know something in order to make that one. That's a thumbs up for me. I like that one.
Yeah, I like that one too. Maybe I would have worded it a little bit differently just for a little bit more fun. But it's very straight to the point, and I think people like that. So Rooster can be a funny guy. Sometimes his jokes don't always land, but that's just that's the ups and downs with Rooster.
I liked it, Rooster. I like.
Well, I don't want to give Rooster too big of a head. His head's already big enough. So let's keep it moving here. Hoosier Hayes said, "There's Hali's dad again. He won't leave me alone."
So solid 10 out of 10. That's awesome. Really enjoyed that one. It's not. When I look for jokes, I look for non-low hanging fruit. There's a time for the low hanging fruit, and then there's a moment to show that you know what you're talking about. Elite reference, love it.
All right, that was from Hoosier Hayes. I got a laugh out of that one, like an audible laugh. So we will say that one is the best one so far. This one comes from Ben's Twins. That's Kyle Kuzma, our worst player.
And that's just funny.
Yeah.
Bucks fans were getting so angry this week over just like a video from after a scrimmage where Kyle Kuzma, I don't think he made one shot in the video.
It was terrible.
He was just shooting around.
Yeah, Eric Name from The Athletic, a great reporter that covers the Bucks. He was actually at practice and he like shared that video. And he started off like videoing Turner and then like zoomed into the far court where Kuzma was at. And Kuzma is like at the free throw line, short rimming these shots that are wide open. And they're just like, oh my God, this is our third highest paid player that's actively playing. Like this is the life of a Milwaukee Buck fan right now.
Yeah.
So, like, what you want to keep moving?
Funny though, hilarious. Yeah.
All right, this is from Richard Head. He said, "If you want to pad your rebounding stats, just stand over there every time Kuzma shoots the basketball."
And I like this one because it's dual threat, right? It's dual action. Not only is it a rebounding joke about Turner, but it's a Kuzma is terrible joke about Kuzma. And there's nuance, there's depth. It's everything that we look for.
All right, this one's from Jeremy Trich. He said, "That white boy Furphy is going to put you on a poster."
I said it to you earlier. If Johnny Furphy posterizes Myles Turner at any point, I think I'm going to end up touching the ceiling of Gamebridge Fieldhouse. I'm going to levitate past the scoreboard. On my way up, I'm going to grab one of the parachutes off of the catwalk, and then I'm going to touch the ceiling.
That'll be the fastest I've seen you move since you went to get your lunch today.
It was, right? I didn't walk that fast, man.
It was like his wife said, "Can you go get the food? Our buzzer's ringing." And you were like, "I guess." And he like Casey just like slowly gets up, and all of a sudden like he walks inside and walks out in like 3 seconds. Like he was quicker than the Simpsons meme, guys. Like
it did take me longer to stand up from the picnic table than it did to go get the food.
It was pretty great. You had to be there for that moment. Now let's keep it moving here. This one comes from Flegs. He said, "You were in the Pacers over there and you came here. What are you doing, bro? Even I'm trying to get out of here."
And again, we're showing that we know exactly what the situation is, making a great point on the way. I love it.
All right, this one comes from Azzy OTC. "Look, Bobby is coming to smack you for not getting them boards."
And there are very few situations where hearing about a fist fight at practice would actually make me a little bit happy because I never really hope for violence. But like, you gotta wonder what that dynamic is like right now.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. That's like Bobby Portis is just like this guy that is just like known for punching his teammate Nikola Mirotic back in the day on Chicago.
Yeah.
Could he punch Myles Turner? I don't think he will. I think he's grown up since then because he's a little bit older now, but that's pretty funny. This one comes from Pacers World, a.k.a. Chase. "Look at AJ Green. He's a 6'4" white guy and he grabbed more rebounds than you."
And the thing is, I struggle with laughing at that one because that's just true. Like, don't get me wrong, it is funny, but it's also just sadly the case.
I know. And like, honestly, like, it's not like I'm enjoying all this shade at Myles. I just think it's funny how much the fans care so much. It just makes me laugh.
And the thing is too,
We're talking over like 110 comments on this post. Like that's what made it laugh. Like made me laugh.
And the thing is, like, you and I are friends, and you know how much mean stuff you say to me, and I just laugh. Like, if you at a certain point, if you can't be like, "Hey, this is funny,"
Yeah. No, we got a couple more. I think we got 3 more, so we'll just keep it moving here. This one comes from Indy Drew. He said, "No, get in the game. You can't fake an injury just because we're playing an Indy."
Brilliant, lovely.
Yeah, I mean that's a good one. It didn't make me laugh, but it is funny. I got a smile out of it. I still think the one like your dad won't stop and Halliburton's dad won't stop bothering me is probably my favorite.
It's in my head, rent free right now.
Yeah, there's Hallie's dad again. Like that, I can just see him. Like, oh my god!
And it's even funnier because of who John Halliburton is as a person.
Yes,
right. Because you picture not just a guy, but that guy coming through the door.
Yes. My favorite one is probably the last one I will read because it's a little like PG-13 rated. But the next PG-13. One here, yeah, the next one here is from Nikki. This one says, "Yoga, Legos, sitting down on Charmin Island right over there." So, we've heard Myles Turner get called soft several times. So, not like that one's really banging the drum for me, but I like that they included yoga and Legos.
Yeah, I will say I feel like there's a really good Cream City one somewhere in there. I haven't come up with it, but I'm workshopping it.
Well, maybe when you come back, you can come up with the perfect one for us. But here is probably the funniest one to me. It's a little bit PG-13 rated. This is from Reginald Finkelweed. The name cracks me up. Look, Myles. Kevin Porter Jr. is beating his girl again. Which is not funny that he's doing that.
It's not. It's not. There's nothing. I want to be clear, and not to speak for Alex, the creator and host of this show, but I'm willing to say that the official position of the Setting the Pace podcast is that there's nothing funny whatsoever about domestic violence. However, you talk about a reference to a truly bad individual. A man who is not a good person whatsoever and did the one thing that you don't do. Screw that guy. And that was brilliant.
That was a brilliant joke. And if you guys even want to make this more of a connection, believe he used to date former Fever first round draft pick Kaiser Gedzuric, who is a person that he ended up beating, which got him kicked out of the league for an entire season before he was brought back by the Clippers last year and then traded to Milwaukee. So Milwaukee traded for him after being suspended for an entire year. And I saw something about Doc Rivers at one of the practices saying they call him Scoot. So if you never hear him say Kevin Porter Jr. or KPJ, Doc Rivers always refers to KPJ as Scoot. And so I had to learn that throughout the playoffs because it's what he called him. And so I was like, all right, that's kind of interesting. But anyway, I just thought it was funny because he was like, well, he was a high draft pick early on. I was like, he fell to 30th because of his off-court issues.
Yeah.
Wasn't a high draft pick. And then he was like, then he became a starter and had a lot of opportunity. I looked at his record as a starter for like the 3 years he was in Houston. They were terrible. I think they won like 36 out of 106 games, or like they were 36 and 106 in the 3 seasons that he played there as a starting point guard for Houston before he got kicked out of the league. So to me, it's like he's not even that great of a player. Very mediocre player. Probably really shouldn't be a starter. More of a bench kind of guy to me. And the fact that he is their starter and someone that has domestic violence, in his history and is still allowed to play in the league, it's a little bit interesting. I'm not here to get political or anything like that. I'm just saying it's just a little bit surprising that the league did not keep him out for what he did and things like that. But I thought the jokes were great. I think all of them are pretty funny. I would say the Halliburton's dad is probably the one that made me laugh out loud the most.
Yeah. And I mean,
it's safe to say again.
And just generally to the folks who participated, I encourage you to look for the diamond in the rough, right?
Diamond in the Huff.
Yeah, as it were. The Myles doesn't rebound. We know this. We've known this. There's no human in the world that you only have one thing to make fun of them for. I think that we can truly do some good work here if we all just search together for it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that there is definitely something they could do differently, right? Like that is how I feel about these jokes. There's a lot of overlap, a lot of the same stuff, and I felt like the creativity could have been better than what we saw. But I mean, I still
Next
got a
time.
kick out of a lot out of them, right? So that to me is like me just being picky because I'm just wanting to. I just want like better jokes that land. But at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. I think it's great that everybody participated and that we were able to kind of see the creative minds coming to life here from Pacer fans as they were trying to think of something clever. And I'm sure some people were like, I don't want to say anything too aggressive on social media. People can see my stuff. So maybe you were thinking of that and trying just to be smart about what you put out there. Because sometimes
Trying to save us, who have to be on camera reading them.
yeah, I mean, I don't have to read them if they're like questionable, but like if they're pretty funny, I'll risk it. I'll risk it.
Yeah.
So that is going to wrap it up for today's episode. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the Fan Jam recap and then the best caption of the Giannis and Myles Turner at practice for the Bucks. And people are saying, "Why are you guys still talking about this? I'm tired of hearing about Myles Turner." Look, I'll just throw this out here very quickly at the end of the podcast. There was another quote. There was a meme from the same picture that was shared on Facebook in a Pacers group chat. And Pacers legendary center Rick Smits laughed at the post. Okay? So if you're talking about one of the greatest centers in Pacers history and Rick Smits is laughing at Myles Turner memes about getting traded from Milwaukee because of Giannis, telling him that he'll trade him if he doesn't start playing better, that to me gives us the opportunity and the right to make jokes, at least for the time being.
Yeah, and I mean, it ultimately, if you are, say, in a romantic relationship with somebody for a full decade and then it doesn't end well, it's going to be a long while before you stop thinking about them when you hear songs. It's going to be a long while before you walk through the park and don't think about that bench that you used to sit on together. Like, indelibly, Myles Turner is a huge part of the Pacers' history, and it's baffling where things are now. And unfortunately, it's just going to keep coming up. And a lot of that is because Myles is currently bringing it up quite a bit, either directly or indirectly. So
Yeah,
we're going to end up reacting probably.
Yeah, it's fine, and we'll probably move on once Myles plays against the Pacers in November.
Yeah,
it's early on November 3rd, I believe it is. So
yeah, it's November 3rd, the day before I get my wisdom teeth out.
Oh, good for you!
What a 2 days for me.
That is going to be an awesome 2 days. So Pacer Nation, thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode here of your go-to Pacers podcast. Facci and I will be back for the next 2 episodes. We're going to give you guys 5 things we want to see in preseason game number 1 against the Minnesota Timberwolves, and then we're going to come back after that game and recap what we saw from preseason game number 1. Now, if you're locally in Indiana, YouTube TV still does not have FanDuel Sports Network, but if you do have the FanDuel Sports Network app, you'll be able to watch all of the 4 preseason games. The ones that are on the road, those will be the telecast of that home team. So Minnesota is the game on Tuesday. You'll get Minnesota's broadcast on FanDuel Sports Network, but you'll still be able to stream it, which is great because in years previous, you were not able to watch the game unless you somehow had a link to League Pass, and it was kind of like this dark feed where it was like the Pacers like had Chris and Quinn calling it from the arena, watching the broadcast from Minnesota on League Pass or wherever. And so it's just a little bit easier. So they might still have something like that on League Pass where Chris and Quinn might give you that option. But for those that are curious, you do not have to go and search it out if you already have FanDuel Sports Network. So that's going to wrap it up. Casey, thank you so much. Where can people find you out on social? And I'll let you say anything else before we sign off.
I am at Casey on the drums on everything. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat. I'm everywhere at Casey on the drums. And just like, don't be mean to other people, primarily. Like, we're all about to get into like the heavy sports part of the season. And just like, remember that none of it matters ultimately. And that like, there's just like, be nice to people. Because like, just like, be nice to people.
Yeah, be nice. Have a good time. Root for your favorite team. And if you don't see eye to eye with people, we don't have to have Twitter wars. It's okay. We can all get along and not have the same opinion. So, Pacer Nation, thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you all tomorrow. Peace out.
to the top. Setting the pace, going to the top. This is your number one podcast. Sleeping every team, we gon' need a mop. Smooth.
Day for you.